friend of ours who I was doing readings for. Neal Parks also is an expert on Mothman. If you're not familiar with the Mothman, he was in Point Pleasant. It's based from Point Pleasant, Virginia. Is that where it is?
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where this creature has been seen by not like a handful of people, but literally hundreds of people, sightings of this creature. And that whole town is like a scene out of Twilight Zone, people, because they've got cameras in woods. The men in black have been spotted there. Yes, the men in black are real people. So Neal Parks will be calling in about 10 minutes, and I can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah.
Now moving on to some more fun stuff. This is Halloween season, people. Our favorite time of the year. In less than 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks from today, will be
Alright, somehow I just lost Spirit Beacon. Why is it not playing? It's alive.
by
There we go.
Patrick Burns, the star of Haunting Evidence. He also is on Paranormal Challenge. You'll be able to speak and watch the Booth Brothers in action. The Booth Brothers, by the way, are producers. They produce shows for Sci-Fi Channel, and as of today, it is official. They made an announcement on Facebook in our agent's Facebook page, Haunted Entertainment, that they have signed a contract with the Chiller Channel. They will be
Chiller.
producing several shows on the Chiller Channel. Some are reality paranormal TV shows. More on that later. So we are really excited. Bellbrook in Lockdown is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Never has a whole town been given to a paranormal group to investigate and to hold an event like this. This is going to be a really, really big event. So if you've never gone to a paranormal convention, or even if you have, don't miss this one. This is going to be really, really unique. You will not regret it. There's so much history in Bellbrook, it's unbelievable. And we're going to do a show on nothing but Bellbrook the Monday before our event. So if you're unfamiliar with the history of Bellbrook, you don't want to miss our show on that Monday.
That's right. So, other than that, other news. See, what do we do? Let's talk football.
Well, yeah, Nicholas had a really exciting football game Friday night.
Yep. We played our rival, and we tied 33-33 in the fourth quarter, went to overtime.
Yeah, it was a nail-biter.
None of us knew how to play overtime because we've never done it before. So each team got one chance to score with no time on the clock, and we scored, they didn't. So we won.
Yep.
And I...
Talk about when you cracked that kid's helmet. Talk about when you cracked that kid's helmet, Adam.
Yes. So apparently, I don't remember this, but probably because,
You had a slight concussion?
Yeah.
The adrenaline rush,
But
perhaps?
I don't have any memory of this. But numerous people told me that a kid that I had pancake block.
Pancake.
And when we just someone, if you're not familiar with what the pancake block is when a lineman knocks his opponent completely on his buttocks.
This is pancakes.
Pancake, like a flat pancake.
Apparently, pancake this kid, and I split his helmet down the middle and ripped off his face mask. Now, I have no memory of this, probably because it hits pretty hard for that to happen. And apparently he had to run off the field and get a new helmet. So, I don't have any memory of this. I found out just today in class, and so that's kind of awesome.
That's very awesome. And this Friday is homecoming weekend. and they're playing another really good team. So I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So at any rate, enough of football. Halloween, October, our favorite month of the entire year next to December. October is the best month for ghost hunting. Why, you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because October is when the veil is the thinnest, and the veil is what I'm referring to is between our world or our dimension and the other side. So during the month of October is when the most reported sightings occur, not just in our country but around our planet. We love October. October is a wonderful month for spirits and hauntings, and we're just so excited for our event. Yay! Yay! And the Booth Brothers will be filming live from our event. So if you attend our event, you might actually find yourself on their TV show on the Chiller Channel. So, and if you have an urge to just have your 5 minutes of fame, I suggest you don't miss Bellbrook on Lockdown.
Be there or be square.
Well, Lee, the founder of our group, posted something else today, but I can't repeat it.
What?
Be there or be something else.
Be okay. Does it rhyme there?
No.
Is it okay?
It's politically incorrect.
There.
Or
Then say it.
Oh.
I just had a mouth of tunes, so I don't want to say it out loud to offend anyone.
Be there or be. I'm just kidding. Over the radio, that'd be bad.
Yep. And Rob Marie is with John Brightman has an event at Rose Island, which is in Rhode Island, over Thanksgiving. So Nicholas and I are going to do our very best to make arrangements to attend this event with Rob Marie and John Brightman.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So, yeah, but again, don't miss out on this incredible package that we have right now.
That's 2 VIP passes. 2 passes for $100.
That's insane. I mean, you have a $350 value, over that much, and you have 2 of them, and it's $100.
Right, you just can't beat that. It's over a $350 value.
So, do it.
Do it. Just do it.
Do it.
I believe your father might purchase one of those for he and Elizabeth so they can also attend our event. Sweet.
Alright.
So, Neal Parks, when he calls in, is a really wonderful speaker. He's a very chatty man. He's very intelligent.
And he just posted, I saw he said in the chat room, he is highly medicated tonight, so this should be an interesting show.
Why is he highly medicated?
I don't know.
Just of a cold or the creeping crud that we pass around in our family? Nicholas said that's a perpetual cough. He can't shake. Oh, I want to tell everyone something interesting that happened today. Going back to Bellbrook on Lockdown, one of the places that we will be investigating, Nick and I will be investigating along with several other celebrities, and you as well.
Hello, how are
especially
you?
If you buy one of our VIP passes, it's called The Joinery.
Severe sinus issues, really. I have actually. I've had a neti massage before. I had that at Great Wolf Lodge a couple of years ago. It made a great difference in my life.
But a neti pot, have you tried one of those? My husband swears by it. He says it's a miracle worker.
Oh, the neti pot.
Actually, my cousin, Lindsay, I think she's also charged my husband about it, and that's the only thing that works for him. It's like a little teapot, kind of, but instead of drinking it, you shoot up your nose. You fill with warm water and this little packet of stuff that you put in the water. I think it's just like Epsom salts and stuff. And you pour up one nostril and it drains out the other.
And it's legal?
You ever heard of that?
I have heard of the neti pot, actually.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
people.
I've had some.
I can't bring myself to pour liquid up my nose, on my nose holes.
Yeah, unless someone's willing to give me $50, I'm not doing it either.
Well, anyway, let's get back to talking about the paranormal.
I'm happy to talk about that.
So, I was so intrigued when I heard you on the Historian, another show on Z-Talk, and I wanted to hear more about your experience at Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I just find that fascinating. You were talking about, I believe you're going up some hill, and there's cameras, and it was just a really weird experience for you. So if you can backtrack and start at the beginning as far as that story of your investigation at Point Pleasant, I'm dying to hear that again.
Yeah, I ended up going further than I should have gone when we were doing the investigation. In fact, someone or something activated my Bluetooth, which out in the swamps where the igloos are located, there's no cell service. You're not going to get Sprint, you're not going to get Verizon, you're not going to get AT&T. It's all dead air. And something or someone kept trying to access my Bluetooth. I kept declining it and declining it. Finally, I ended up just shutting my phone off. But before I could really do anything at that point, someone had gotten into my phone via Bluetooth and erased every single video and photograph I took near that area where the cameras are located in the trees. And the way the trees were set up, they were a different type of tree compared to the rest of the trees in that swamp area. They were more of like an evergreen type tree, whereas all the other trees in that region were apple or some like a maple tree. But these were evergreen, and they were perfectly placed, perfectly aligned, and it just did not fit with the environment. So as I moved forward towards that bank, that's when I noticed the cameras in the trees, and they were following me as I was moving around. As when with the Bluetooth being accessed, that's when it happened. And I found out from the son of the former mayor the next day that he and some friends had gone out there maybe 8 years ago, before these trees were ever planted out there, and they went up to that bank that I was describing and continued to walk forward and found all this foliage, and what was behind the foliage was this fence that you could clearly see through. And they were peering into it and noticed that there were probably 3 to 4 hangars in the middle of this valley off to the mountainside of West Virginia, and there was a short landing strip and a helicopter landing pad, and there were people driving trucks back and forth with these crates from one hangar to another. And they got really spooked at one point because spotlights started panning across. It was close to nighttime at that point, and spotlights are panning across that hillside. They thought that would be discovered, so they immediately backtracked to their vehicle, drove to the gas station outside of town on their way into Point Pleasant, and as he's standing in line getting snacks or whatever, this gentleman approaches him from the back and says, "We know your father, we know who you are, we know where you've been, and you are not to tell anyone if you wish for your father to continue in his political career or you wish to attend college." And he stood there frozen in fear and looked out of the corner of his eye and saw the man walk out. He was wearing a tan jumpsuit with an orange hunter-type hat, but he had a strange badge on the top of the hat that did not seem recognizable. It wasn't an identifier for a hunter by any means. And he hopped in this white van that had no windows except for the passenger and the driver's side that were tinted completely black, and it drove off of the lot, turned around, and headed back towards the igloos. So
that's fascinating. I mean, you hear about that, and you think, well, that just makes for a good story, you know, like that doesn't really happen.
Well, I'm thinking they're more the...
Parks is a very intelligent man, and he would not repeat that unless he felt that it was credible.
I'm thinking that maybe they're the men in tan jumpsuits, not the men in black. Because the next day I had a run-in with them when my team member Brent, who you met at the convention, and the two of us went back to take more videos and photographs closer to that area where whatever had taken that off of my phone. All it removed were the pictures I took at the site. What it did not mess with were pictures of my kid and pictures of my wife. At that time I only had one child. Now I have two. And it didn't mess with any of those, so I started taking more pictures, and this black helicopter, you could hear a helicopter in the distance, but over the horizon you could see it appeared to be unmarked, it appeared to be black, and it was kind of circling over the area, not directly over us, but off in the distance, and it kind of nerved me out, so the both of us went back to the vehicle, and as we started to pull out, like 5 to 6 different vehicles pulled in around us. One was a dually that was all white. One was the same type of van as to what the son of the former mayor described to me. Another one was a black Hummer. Another was a black Ford Explorer. I don't remember what the other one was, but they all pulled in. They all had tan jumpsuits on. They were probably close to eight men, maybe 10 men. They were in the tan jumpsuits, the orange hats, and they had strange badges on their hats. And I don't hunt, but I know well enough that if you're going to go hunting, you don't go in a group of 12 unless you're tracking something or trying to scare someone away.
Right.
And this was a Sunday morning, so I don't foresee that happening, especially since that's the swamp area, which is a designated wildlife reserve. You really can't hunt there anyway. Hello?
Neal?
Yes.
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. Where did I leave off?
You said the guys don't hunt in groups of 12.
Right. They don't. You know, I'm not a hunter, but it doesn't seem normal to hunt in a group of 12 unless you're tracking something or trying to scare someone away. And furthermore, it was a Sunday morning when we encountered this, and the whole igloo area with the swampland, that's a wildlife reserve, which, according to the laws of West Virginia, it's illegal to hunt in a wildlife reserve.
This whole tale just fascinates me, Neal. It really does. So what happened when they surrounded you?
They surrounded us and basically just stood there and watched us as we pulled away and continued on with what they were doing. They didn't remove any hunting dogs out of the back of the trucks. They had hunting dog crates, but there were no dogs in the crates. And all the men just started walking down that trail without any dogs, without any guns, without bow and arrow, nothing like that. They just started walking and left their vehicles parked where they were. No one followed us, but we didn't bother to go back for the rest of the trip.
Oh, no, gosh, no. Wow. Well, do you guys explain to the audience what your point was going to Point Pleasant, a little bit about the Mothman prophecy?
No, certainly. Not the movie, of course, because that was way too Hollywood,
No.
but the real events that took place, starting with, what was her name? Last name was Scarberry. She was one of the first reports where she and some friends were driving out past the TNT depot. The whole history behind Point Pleasant, of course, is a curse that's been placed on the land by the dying breath of Chief Cornstalk, because the treaty was betrayed. Tecumseh couldn't even talk any sense into the military men that were there and had Point Pleasant set up as a military installation. Because just like Native Americans used to build mounds and sacred sites near river banks, a lot of the military, pre-World War I, sometimes during the Civil War era, would set up camps and forts near large bodies of water like that as well. Not only for the fact that they utilized that for water supply, but it was easier for them to move boats in and out closer to where their installations were. And some of the sites are still there as far as the battle that took place in Point Pleasant. There's a monument erected there, and one of the cabins still stands there where some of the men retreated that were wounded. And we took a picture of that cabin during the day, and there was a bright light up on the top floor of that cabin in the middle of the daytime, and it far exceeded the amount of light that the sun was providing. So I found that interesting, especially since whatever would be in that cabin should not be that reflective in nature, especially since the sun doesn't require you to use flash photography. But the dying breath of Chief Cornstalk placed a curse upon Point Pleasant because the treaty was broken, and so many bizarre accidents have happened in Point Pleasant. Of course, the Silver Dollar Bridge that collapsed, killed close to 40 people. Some of them were never recovered, and legend has it, when they were setting up the new bridge several years later, so many divers that had gone down searching for cars and bodies after the first accident, and then the ones that were diving into the water to set up the pillars and columns needed in doing underwater underwater welding, they came back up and reported that there were catfish large enough under the water to eat a man. And I do know that there's a strong stream, a strong current under the main floor and the way the current rushes under the river itself. And there's underwater cave systems underground beneath the surface itself that connect to a caving system that's completely uncharted, that's beyond the actual igloos themselves. And it's a caving system that you can swim underwater to get to. You come up out of it, and then it's like these huge stalactites and stalagmites everywhere. Most of your towns like Point Pleasant that are built and set up along riverbanks have an entourage of paranormal phenomenon happening. Of course, you've got the onslaught of water itself, which is conductive, and normally you've got a strong Native American presence, which left a deep spiritual and emotional stitch in time, therefore etching itself into the environment. And the curse itself that Chief Cornstalk could have placed could have invoked the Mothman creature, but I have a theory about the Mothman creature, considering that he himself, or it itself, has popped up in several other locations before a major disaster, not just Point Pleasant.
Really?
And I believe
I wasn't aware of that. I thought Mothman was just a Point Pleasant thing, so
I believe it.
Interesting.
I believe it to be a seraphim angel. If you're familiar with the mentioning of the seraphim angel in the Old and New Testament, it describes them as being half man, half creature, looking almost beast-like, having the characteristics of a man's body but covered in fur or covered in scales or covered in feathers, and having strange beaks or a lion's head. Bizarre descriptions of seraphim angels. And there have been sightings similar to the Mothman probably 2 years after the bridge had collapsed, here in Ohio, near Lancaster and Nelsonville, where the Moonville tunnels are located. Right before that Moonville train tunnel collapsed, people in that farm area and what is now a ghost town reported seeing the same type of thing.
I've never heard that before, Neal. Thank you for sharing that with me. I've only seen, unfortunately, the Hollywood version of Mothman, and I did see that movie, and it was very Hollywoodized, as you call it.
Yeah.
But I read about the Mothman in Point Pleasant, and I just find it really, really fascinating. And you're the only person who's come up with this approach about what the Mothman is. I've never heard anyone else come up with that approach. So that's really interesting to me.
Thank
really
you.
Interesting.
Another theory that my wife has shared with me in the past, which also made sense if you want to think of it from a normal perspective and not so abnormal or pseudoscientific, would be something as simple as a specialized suit with jetpack that the military may have been experimenting with in the 1960s, since everything we have now in movies where it shows the CIA or the NSA working on this and working on that and tracking people, what you see in movies like Enemy of the State or even episodes of The X-Files or Person of Interest, that is CIA and NSA technology that was predominant within the 60s and 70s. What they have now far exceeds anything Hollywood or TV has been permitted to put out and leak to the public.
Wow, this whole thing is very interesting to me. I'm not up on what our government has technology-wise, so your wife's theory also holds water with me. I mean, that makes a lot of sense as well.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure you remember some of those old documentaries in the 60s where they would say, sometime in the future, and they would show people flying around in jetpacks, or the revolving sidewalks, or the closet you walk into that changes your clothes for you. You know, ridiculous stuff like that.
Right. Like, I don't know if you are old enough to remember this show, Neal. This is called Get Smart.
Yes,
and
I do.
Walked in phone booth, and like a second later walk out with his superhero outfit on.
Yeah. I do remember that. I watched Get Smart regularly when they had it in syndication. I didn't see it in its heyday, but...
Yeah. Well, the Mothman theory, I mean, your theory is really interesting to me, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us, because from what I've seen on TV shows about it, I'm going to ignore the movie, because the movie really has nothing to do with what really was going on there.
Right, loosely
what
translated.
Talking about the collapse of the bridge, is that weeks prior to the collapse of the bridge was when the sightings of this quote Mothman had really ramped up. I mean, people from Yeah. Well, the Mothman theory, I mean, your theory is really interesting to me, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us, because from what I've seen on TV shows about it, you can ignore the movie because
and then with the collapse of the bridge, that's when it kind of slowed down the sighting. So
Yeah.
I think what Neal's saying about the angels saying before the collapse of the bridge holds a lot of weight with me, because angels come to us to warn us for upcoming events. If you are a Christian, if you read the Bible, there's many, many tales of angels coming to aid us. They also come to let us know if something negative is going to be coming in our lives, a warning. I think that's really, really fascinating. What is there any more Mothman sightings around our country besides you mentioned in Ohio, or
The most
is it pretty much localized?
The most recent one in the United States that I had received confirmation of and a photograph, it looked a lot like the fallen angel from the Van Halen, I think, not Running with the Devil album, but the one between Running with the Devil and 1984. And you know how the angel is like falling out of the sky, he kind of has his head thrown back and his arms up in the air. It looked a lot like that right before the trade towers collapsed. There was a photographer who captured this being, and the being allegedly spoke to about 20 people who reported this to the photographer because they saw him photographing that specifically. And the being spoke to these 20 people telepathically and told them that he was Gabriel, the archangel, and that he was here to warn people of an impending doom. A little, too late. The towers had already been hit. Kind of, maybe he was taking an extended coffee break and he missed the opportunity to save thousands of people. But between that and the disaster in Japan that just recently happened with the earthquake, there were sightings in and around Japan before the earthquake and tsunami hit. There were sightings in and around Chernobyl, known as the Chernobyl Blackbird. You can Google that and find out all kinds of information on the Chernobyl Blackbird. Same with the thermonuclear meltdown at that China power plant in the 1980s. They had the same issue, the same sightings. The same sightings were documented and actually sketched out and or painted during the fall of the Roman Empire. A lot of people always refer to Nero dancing on the rooftop playing the fiddle as Rome was burning to the ground, but there were a lot more things. Like if you notice, some of the Renaissance era paintings show UFOs in the sky, like behind the Mona Lisa, and it shows a man and his dog looking up at it. And then, of course, you've got Michelangelo's drawings and sketches of UFO-type crafts that far exceeded the Wright brothers' ability to build a tiny little plane that would catch enough wind to lift them in the air for about 20 minutes. So someone's getting their information from something.
Right. How did you come across all this information? Is this just an area of interest for you, the paranormal field, Mothman, or?
Yeah, like with my team, of course, we all specialize in different things. I deliberately set it up that way, where Steve, my brother-in-law, and Brent, they specialize primarily in haunted locations, haunted historical sites, and Steve specializes in EMF coding and trying to decipher EMF. And with me, I tackle it all. I do cryptozoology, UFOlogy, serialology, which is the study of crop formations. I dive into and try to understand and theorize behind time travel, time pockets, time windows, and of course, first and foremost, you've got me diving into ghosts, haunted locations, haunted houses, haunted people, haunted artifacts, haunted antiques. And then my wife, of course, is the Agent Scully of the team, who keeps me well grounded, because if I didn't listen to her, I'd be chasing the moon every night, thinking it was the mothership. And there's some truth to that, too. With several other team members, they specialize in historical documentation, trying to find letters and images and any kind of a conversation between the witness and other people that they shared the story with to try to put the pieces together. So we spend countless hours and sometimes months trying to figure out how to present the information to people to where they will actually listen to us and not think that we're just selling snake elixir.
Right, right, right. So your group comes with a very scientific approach to paranormal, which I greatly appreciate. You have a really diverse group of people on your team, don't you?
Yeah, we do. I make it a prerequisite to where everyone on my team has to have a close personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That being because I can taste and I can feel negative entities, and if I go into an area, like that's why I have yet to go into the Mansfield Reformatory or any former prison for that matter, because if they're still alive, I'm not going to go in and talk to them or try to communicate with them. Why on earth would I go into some place like the Mansfield Reformatory where the negative and the most evil part of that person is roaming free through the halls? It would probably cause me to vomit. Not to say that I condemn those that do it. I applaud that they have the ability and the guts to go do it, but I am just so leery of negative forces and dark energies because I have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old, and the last thing I want is to have it attach itself to my shoes, and then I come home and then it possesses my kids' toys or something.
Right, right. And honestly, yeah, that's a very legitimate concern. What you just said, we've experienced here in our household. When I first started doing investigations, when I first started reading, I was kind of flippant about it and careless about it. And what we refer to as hitchhikers, so David Jones calls them hitchhikers. So you bring a hitchhiker home. No one wants a stranger coming inside your home that you don't know, yet you don't like, let alone a hitchhiker who murdered someone or raped someone. No one would invite that kind of person into your home. And what Neal just described does happen on occasions when you go investigating. And so what you said, you want everyone to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ is a wonderful way of protection, because if you keep love in your heart, it keeps your vibration level up in a higher plane. Negative stuff is attracted to negative people. So if you're vibrating in a higher plane, in a higher vibration, because you're coming from a place of love, then that negativity won't attach itself to you because you don't have anything, you're not offering anything.
Right.
If you go on an investigation, you're worried about maybe your job, or maybe someone's just cutting off the traffic, you're cutting them, that negativity you've already brought into your life. And so if you go on an investigation, as Neal just described, like it's Mansfield Reformatory, negative stuff will be attracted to that negative within you, and it might just follow you home. So I greatly appreciate where you're coming from.
That's our secret weapon.
Well, it's a wonderful weapon, and before Nicholas and I go on any investigation, I always say a prayer.
Yeah.
I say a prayer for the spirit to be trapped there, and I say a prayer for all of the team members, because I just feel like you always should be respectful of
absolutely.
the being that made you, and call upon him or her for protection. So,
and for me,
right on with you.
I'm half Irish and half Cherokee. So the way I enter the domain of another spirit is forward, and I start from the right and I move around the room to the left, counterclockwise, and I always exit facing. It's a custom. It's a thing that they would do when they would enter the room or the hut or the teepee. They would always travel the room from right to left because it was to pay respect and homage to the elders and to the kindred spirits. And if you turn your back as you walk out, it's a sign of disrespect, and it can be harmful to you. So I'm very superstitious as well as being a man of faith.
Well, whatever works.
And, yeah.
Nicholas has taken years of Taekwondo and karate, and that's how they enter rooms as well. I mean, when you enter into your, what's it called, Nicholas, your where you walk in when you do your karate stuff. Dojo. You walk in facing the room, you walk out facing the room. So there is something to that, because many cultures have embraced that same philosophy.
I'm glad you allowed me to share that too, because a lot of radio
What's going on with your paranormal group these days? What kind of investigation
Well, right now we are working heavily on the upcoming Chillicothe historical mystery and history ghost tour. That will be October the 23rd from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And they always have me set up at a historical site, and I do presentations, close to 40 of them throughout the entire day to groups of 15 to 20 people. And I do these all within 10 to 15 minute increments, so I don't really get a lot of time in between to go to the potty or to really drink anything. So I'm wound for sound the whole day. And between that, we've got property that's down the road from where I live on Route 50 between Chillicothe and Hillsboro. It's in a town called Bainbridge, Ohio. It's an old farmhouse that's right next to where a crop formation popped up in 2003. The house is exhibiting bizarre paranormal phenomenon, and the same family has lived in the house for about 40 years. And of course, they started making some minor changes and have never noticed anything until they started doing that. And they woke something up, and it's talking to them, it's throwing books, it's looking at them from the end of the hall, and then it just kind of disappears. And they said it's a full-figured, dark, shadowed entity. And I'm wondering if it's a malicious spirit. I'm wondering if it's a demonic entity or maybe something as trivial as an imp. Really not sure,
Right.
but we're going to dive into that in a couple of weeks.
Right. Right. So, what big investigations have you done this year?
We did the entire 2nd Street, Chillicothe is 2nd Street Union block, which is one of the oldest blocks, city blocks in Chillicothe, from top to bottom, basement to attic. Went through and encountered. We caught on video. One of my girls was doing some camera work, and one of the owner's daughters was walking next to her, and something grabbed her shirt, and quickly one of my girls went and panned across, and you could see her shirt extended outward, and then her ponytail lifted up in the air, and then just dropped, and the entire room got really cold. You didn't pick up any of her breath on the video, but they all stated that it started to feel a lot colder. Now, that was about the time where Brent and I were up in the attic. The attic was full of dead birds and not dead bird droppings, but bird droppings in general. And that was about the same time when we were up there walking around, and I heard the sound of a child giggling at the other end of the top of the attic, and you could hear him running toward us. And Brent dropped his flashlight and backed up. He was like, "What was that?" I said, "That was a kid, dude." And I'm looking around, and I said, "Go ahead and laugh again." And there was nothing, and I walked through that doorway into that area where you could hear the child laughing and running. And then as we walked through the doorway, we got blasted with like this weird hot blast of air. Not cool, but hot. And it was a warm feeling. And then you could hear behind us the sounds of footsteps, and then running down that stairway that leads up to the attic, and the door down there slammed shut.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That was one.
Was it a private home, or was it
It's a
business?
fully. It's being restored currently, but it used to be the original Chillicothe Gazette in the 1880s, and then it was a law firm, and then it was where the Advertiser was set up, and it's been vacant since the 1960s, and just basically left there decaying, and then they started restoring it in the 90s, and they've taken care of a lot of the problems. We also, my wife and I were in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands in last May. We went there for a pleasure trip, but I was researching USOs, underwater submerged objects, which a lot of fishermen and other people that are on cruise ships report seeing constantly. Like a strange light will drop out of the sky and go into the water and go under the ship, and they can make out the full detail of the vessel because it's glowing blue or glowing green. And I talked to the ship's captain, and he told me about something that happened to him 20 years ago when he was just a first mate. And he described just that, a series of lights, like a red light and an orange light, dropping from the sky, hitting the water, and then started coming towards the ship, and then went directly under the ship, and it caused the ship to kind of go up and then back down, and they ran over to the other side of the ship and watched them go underneath, come up out of the water, and go up into the sky. So I got a chance to interview him about that. And then when we were in the Cayman Islands, I searched all over trying to find any kind of book pertaining to local legends, local ghost stories, and the people I kept asking about it, like the local historian gift shop and the local bookstore, they kind of laughed at me when I was asking about those things. I don't know if it's because I'm a visitor and they really didn't want to share that information with me, or they really don't have anything to share because they don't really subscribe to that in the Cayman Islands, because it is kind of a Richie Roll area. A lot of very wealthy people live there and work there and sell diamonds, blood diamonds there.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. You really have the whole gamut of paranormal experiences in your group. You cover everything from your basic haunting to crop circles to lights in the ocean to Mothman. I mean, that's very impressive, Neal.
I try to keep it interesting. Hello? Did you lose me again? Okay.
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
I said I try to keep it interesting.
Neal?
Yeah. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I think your cell phone, right?
Yeah, I'm calling from my cell because it's free long distance.
Yep, we just lost you. Yeah, we lost you for a second. Neal?
Yeah. The first book that I have written is titled Paranormal Chronicles, Tales of Humor, Horror, and the Absolutely Strange. That one has actually been selling really well recently in the United Kingdom, and Japan's really into buying it now. I've actually sold a few hundred in Japan, and I haven't even tried to. It just sort of happened. And my second book is titled Haunted Chillicothe, and that one's all about local ghost stories, local legends, local tales, folklore, and truly unbelievable encounters. That one is done well, not just locally, but all over the state of Ohio. And it actually has caught the attention of the authors of the Weird U.S. book series. They've done Weird Ohio, Weird Michigan, Weird Carolinas, Weird pretty much everything. And they were interested in possibly having me do some co-writing with them in an upcoming Weird West Virginia they're wanting to work on, because I have such a strong presence in Point Pleasant.
Right.
And I have
Wow, that's wonderful.
I have a third book coming out soon, before the next Halloween season. I'm holding off on it a bit because it is finished, but I'm trying to pick up, you have a mainstream publishing company and a mainstream literary agent pick it up for me, so I don't have to self-publish it, because I would like to go mega mainstream, like, on the Oprah Winfrey Show type of book. And if any agents or publishing companies are out there listening right now, the book is titled Haunted Holidays. I would like to discuss more about it with you. You can reach me at my mobile number. I'll go ahead and give that out on the air because people call me all the time about this type of thing. 740-703-3445. And my email address is Fonzie, Fonzy, 1959 at yahoo.com. And my website for Parks Paranormal is parks-paranormal.8m.com, and that's number 8 and lowercase m.com, parks-paranormal.8m.com.
I think he's trying to put that in our chat room right now for you.
That's great.
So, again, you're just a fascinating man to listen to. I could just listen to you for hours on end.
I wish my wife could.
I really appreciate you calling our show tonight. You're such an intelligent man, and you just have so much information to share with people. So again, if anyone's interested in Neal's books, you just gave you the information, cell phone number, email address. You can also find Neal on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And you can get my books through Amazon. You can get them through my publisher, Lulu.com. You can get them through Barnes& and Noble. They sell them at Barnes& and Noble, actually. And I'm sure you could probably find a copy of it on eBay for $1.
No, I don't think $1. Well, Neal, this has been a fascinating discussion with you. The whole Mothman thing, I could just listen to you. I'll talk about that for hours. I just find that really, really interesting because honestly, until I heard you describe your experience in Point Pleasant on another Z-Talk radio show, The Historian, I kind of thought that was kind of all BS, to be blunt. I just figured, there's just some sci-fi weirdos out there trying to make more out of a situation than what's really going on. It's just looking for attention. And I figured, well, whatever happened in Point Pleasant, it's coincidental. And so your personal experience there and the experience of the mayor's son, that's almost unheard of. I mean, you see that in science fiction movies.
Yeah.
But I can't grasp or wrap my head around that that's actually happening right here, right now in our country. Trees with cameras, and I just find that whole thing fascinating.
Well, are you familiar with the TV show Fringe? Have you seen Fringe?
No.
It's a wonderful show. It's on Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Fox. It's a J.J. Abrams show. It's basically a show he did after Lost. And it started around the same time as Lost, and it's in its 5th season right now. They have beings in this TV show that are known as observers, and they look like the traditional depiction of Men in Black. They look just like that. And they have the black suits, the black top hats, the black glasses, and they're very robotic in their mannerisms, very unfeeling, unemotionally involved, and they just basically observe all of these horrible things that go on, and if they feel the need, they do intervene, but it completely breaks the course of time and that person's destiny. And basically they're exiled if they do any kind of interference, or they have to fix it by basically going back in time or an alternate universe to correct it. They look so much like the way the Men in Black are depicted, and the olive skin, almost like albino. Yes, I'm here. Sorry, someone was calling in on my phone, and I had to ignore the call.
That's all right. So, you're saying about the Men in Black on the show, that they just observe what's going on, and...
Yeah. They give clues and warnings about certain things, and basically will leave it up to you to do one or the other. But sometimes they will intervene and say, well, this is about to happen, but you could take this path and change the outcome. But they don't necessarily do anything to help you. They just kind of give you clues and bits and pieces. And, of course, with the Mothman incident happening in Point Pleasant like it did, there were dozens of sightings of UFOs and dozens of reported encounters with Men in Black.
As we're talking, I don't know if you've ever considered, I don't know if you believe in aliens, but
absolutely.
Has that ever crossed your mind, or have you ever explored the fact that maybe these are visitors from extraterrestrial visitors observing us our planet?
Either that, or possibly interdimensional travelers, not necessarily from another planet, but from an alternate reality.
Right.
Which... Of course, that would explain why culture like that existed 800,000 years ago would create golden trinkets in South America that looked like B-52 bombers before the age of aviation was even conceived, prior to the creation of the wheel. So it's anyone's game in that department.
Right. Well, it's just there's so many theories out there, but I really appreciate you sharing all this with us. I mean, you said so much information about everything paranormal. I'd like to have you back on the show again. Again, everyone, this is Neal Parks. Find him on Facebook, email you are the Mothman expert, as far as I'm concerned, because you're the first person I've ever heard refer to the Mothman as some type of angel. I find it really fascinating. I'm really into angels and communicating with angels. So.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you allowed me to share that theory.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. So, whether or not they're fallen angels or, angels of a different phylum, they're angels. And I just think it's really interesting to me because when people describe the description of the Mothman, the first thing I thought, well, just looks like a big angel.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned that your theory is that these are angels, and I thought there might be something to that. So, anyway, this is a fascinating subject. Thank you so much for calling in and being our guest on our show tonight, Neal. I can't wait to find it. I'm definitely going to purchase your third book. You're a really intelligent man. You write very, very well. So if anyone has not ever read any of Neal's books, please go online and purchase these books. Very well written. So, anyway, we have to wrap up our show here, Neal. Is there any more things you want to share with everyone before we close?
At the moment, as of last night, that was my last webcast for my show, Paranormally Speaking. I'll go ahead and share that with you on the air. Due to some minor creative differences and just the amount of everything I have going on, professionally, personally, I just can simply not add another thing to my plate of life. So I had to step down after last night. That was my last broadcast. But I do plan to keep Paranormally Speaking around. The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to do a monthly broadcast, not a week-to-week, because I simply do not have the time to put into that every week, on top of being a father of two, a husband, an author, a public speaker, going to conventions and festivals to do book signings, writing books. I just simply do not have the time to do it all, so I had to let something go. And I didn't really have a problem until I added the web show, and that's what I let go.
Yeah, it is very time-consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want you never want to have yourself overburdened, because that's you get sick and things can fall by the wayside. So
yeah, they do.
I'm glad you dropped that show, because you're a phenomenal writer, and I would not want you to, have to pick and choose between writing or doing that show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this also,
I love you, Neal.
this
Again,
also,
we appreciate being our guest on tonight's show.
thank you.
And I'm going to pick your brain for more Mothman information some other time.
Oh, absolutely.
So, again, everyone, our guest tonight is Neal Parks. And thank you so much for being our guest, Neal.
Thank you so much for having me. You have
All right, thanks again.
All right.
Everyone, that was Neal Parks from Chillicothe, Ohio. So if you wanted to talk to him, chat with him, look him up on Facebook. If you're my friend on Facebook, Neal is one of my friends as well. Next week, we're going to have
more Mothman information some other time. So again, everyone, our guest tonight is Neal Parks, and thank you so much for being our guest, Neal.
Thank you so much for having me.
Alright, thanks again. Everyone, that was Neal Parks from Chillicothe, Ohio. So if you want to talk to him, chat with him, look him up on Facebook. If you're my friend on Facebook, Neal is one of my friends as well. Next week, we're going to have the group Flatliners Paranormal. They are from Kentucky. We met them at Scarefest. Really fascinating guys. They're going to be doing an investigation at Waverly Hills. We're talking about Waverly Hills Sanatorium on our show next week. And again, if you just tuned in late, we have Bellbrook on lockdown VIP passes, 2 for $100. That's a $350 value. So don't miss out on this event, people. And up next is Scotty and Zeta with The Buzz. Thanks again. See you here same time next week.